Richard Randall, welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker. She's the host of the program, and this is the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, most home buyers are searching on those big national websites like Zillow, Realtor.com, and Homes.com. But is that really the best way for home buyers to find the best homes here in Colorado? And do they need to hire a buyer's agent to purchase a home here in Colorado?
Well, Richard, I get calls all the time from buyers, and most of them say they're working with an agent, but their agent isn't finding them homes. And it's like, well, I feel like saying, what if I told you that you could have access to all of these homes that you see online? You don't need the real estate agent to get you in that door. But whatever, they're friends. Everybody knows a real estate agent. There's really one on every corner, practically. But actually, there's about 1/3 of the homes that are sold off market for cash that the buyers never have access to if they don't have the right connections to get into those homes. And some of the best deals never reappear on the market. I sold a home not too long ago, earlier in the spring, where we had a bidding war on that house. Great home in a great location, perfect condition. And buyer number one made the best offer, but turned out they were over their skis as far as them being able to perform. So they bailed out, and we never went back on the market. We went back to the other 6 buyers that had made an offer, and one of those buyers ended up getting the house. So many times these kind of things happen. There are quite a few home sellers that choose to sell their home by owner, electing to save the commission, right? But what commission are they really saving? Because sometimes they might do that, but they're still going to end up, there's going to be some agent, sneaking themselves in there going, oh, this is my buyer, will you pay me a commission? So I don't think they're saving that much. And many times the statistics bear out that they end up netting less money when they do it that way. And buying a home in general, as well as selling a home, it's filled with a lot of emotions. It's a huge investment, both for the buyers and sellers. So we're going to talk about, some ways that home buyers can avoid making mistakes to pick the right house. And what are some of the costs associated with buying a home? First of all, the buyer really needs to know what is their price range, what can they afford? And that would start by aligning themselves with a really good mortgage broker. We have a great one that will give the buyer all kinds of financing incentives where you don't have to beat up on the seller to get closing costs. You can actually get it from the lender and still get a great rate and still get the home that you want. And I predict that between now and probably next May, whenever the current Fed steps down, or maybe a few months after that, next summer, we're going to see the rates start to come down substantially. And then a lot of these sideline buyers, they're going to come out and you're going to have to compete with them, and it's going to be driving the prices up. So I always recommend to buyers, don't wait, find the right house now, and just be prepared to refinance when the rates drop. And we have people that can help you get access to the best financing now. A lot of these lenders are offering basically a free refinance when the rates drop. And that's probably the best way to do it, is what I think. And having your financing ready to go is like carrying a big stick. The lender that we work with offers an appraisal guarantee. So what does that mean? That means that if some third-party licensed appraiser comes in and says that home is not worth that much, right? The seller doesn't have to worry about it. It's almost like shopping with cash, in that this lender is going to guarantee that no matter what the appraiser says, they're going to do a loan on that house and we're going to get to the finish line. That's a really great incentive to have when you're making offers on homes. It makes your offer stronger. It gives you the opportunity to negotiate a bit more if it's one less thing to worry about. 2 years ago, I sat down with a home seller and I was so proud of myself because he listened to what I said. He priced it right. We had a huge crowd at the open house. So we sat down. I had 6 offers to present to him. And he was this retired infantry officer, kind of a gruff guy. And I was so excited. I had 6 offers, and they were a little bit higher. A couple of them were a little bit higher than asking price. And I presented them to him, and I said, "Isn't this great? Isn't this fun?" And he looked at me and he says, "No, I told you to get me the most money, Barb. How are you going to do that?" I kind of started to sweat and freak out and go, "Oh my God, okay. You know what? I know what I'll do." So I went back to the other top 2 buyers and basically gave them a chance to make their best and highest offer. This is something that the corporate sellers do all the time when they have competing offers. Is they ask for a second round best and highest. And you'd be surprised, the buyers come up again from what, even though they knew they were up against competition before, they raised their price again. And we ended up getting another $20,000 out of that deal. Okay. But if you have a really strong offer, if you're positioning yourself as a buyer to be the best buyer for that house, chances of you negotiating or beating out competition is a much higher situation. So what about this commission thing? So the whole reason this National Association of Realtors settlement thing took place is that commissions became very fixed and almost non-negotiable. Before a year ago, we had to advertise how much the seller was willing to pay in terms of buyer agent commission in the multiple listing service. And it was 100% non-negotiable. If that agent, if they brought you the buyer that closed, didn't get paid that much, they could take you to the MLS police and book you, and they were going to get paid no matter what. The problem was some of those real estate companies actually had policies built into their training that said, "Hey, agent, if you don't offer at least this much commission, the agents are going to steer around your home and not show it to their buyers." Now, at the end of the day, the buyers nowadays are deciding what home they're going to go see. So the initial thought was, okay, well, we'll just advertise how much commission is being offered by the home seller and let the buyer decide whether or not they're being steered around. But that wasn't good enough. So the National Association and all these different entities under the National Association started getting sued. And this thing was turning like a snowball, growing and growing down the hill. And there were more and more of these class action lawsuits popping up all across the country for antitrust and price fixing. So the final settlement was the National Association said, "All right, fine. We concede." They paid a huge amount of money, and they stopped all that litigation. But there were 2 rules that came out of it. One of them was that when a agent was to show a house, they had to have in writing how much their commission was, but not necessarily how they got paid. So they don't know how they're going to get paid because we no longer allowed to advertise how much a seller might be willing to pay a buyer's agent anywhere online. They're just guessing. Now, what the state of Colorado did is they put it as the last paragraph in the contract where you could negotiate the fee. So the buyer could ask the seller to pay their buyer agent commission, but it is negotiable, right? And what I've seen in the past year is almost all of them are asking for 3%. Very, very few have come in and asked for less. Okay, but most of them are asking for 3%. But the seller has an opportunity to counter back and go, "No, I'm not going to pay 3%. I might pay 2.5. I might pay 2. I actually had one home seller only offer 2. Now he had competing offers on his home. He priced it very realistically. We had 4 offers, all of which went 50,000 over asking price. And the one buyer agent that insisted on getting 3%, his buyer didn't get the house. So guess what happens, Richard? A couple weeks later, the seller gets this anonymous letter, postmarked up in Denver, which is where this agent was. It was obvious it was an agent that wrote the letter talking smack about me and how she's all about her commission and blah, blah, blah. I don't know why why he did that. But I think what happened, I'm just guessing now, is that his buyer was not happy with him because that agent got in between his buyer getting the house, right? Because he insisted on getting the seller to pay 3%. Now, I don't know why the buyer's agent didn't have enough negotiating skills to say my fee is 3%, seller's paying 2, then you owe me 1 more, right? He could have done that. It was a cash buyer. They had plenty of money, but he didn't do that. Instead, he stood his ground. His buyer didn't get his house and he got fired. So there's different ways to do it now. And I think it's so much fun because there's nothing wrong with a buyer paying the fee. So the buyer could go up in price to get their fee covered as long as the house appraises. So that's another option as well. So in my view, not a whole lot has changed, except that the buyer's agent fee is a lot more negotiable. And the obvious question really from a buyer should be, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Agent, I want to buy a house. You want me to sign an agreement that you make 3%. What are you going to do for me for that? Right. So what most agents are doing right now is they're just beating the heck out of the seller on price and concessions and trying to get stuff. That's what they think brings value to the table. And I think it's a mistake if they don't get the house. And it does put them in the middle. So it's really interesting. It's also a lot of fun. And not everybody knows how to articulate the value that they bring. Some people think they do it that way. Some people might do it in other ways. But at the end of the day, our number one objective is to meet our clients' goals. It's not about commission. And you have to keep that in mind at the end of the day. And we actually help our buyers. We help our buyers negotiate to get their fee. And we offer what we call a VIP home buying service for our buyers, where they get insider access to all the homes available, even ones that are not online. And you could find out more about that if you go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice. That's Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And if you are thinking of making a move, call Barb at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. So, Barb, what are some other things that home buyers should consider to find the very best homes for sale here in Colorado?
Well, I'm not sure why, but what the MLS is teaching us is set up an electronic search for your buyers. So you just keep sending them houses that they already have access to that they could see. And to me, that's not very special. We need to sit down and find out what they're looking for. And then we need to go find it. That's what we're supposed to be doing. We're a home finder service. And most agents just, tell them to go look at Zillow, or better yet, if I'm holding an open house on that house, they will tell their buyer to go to the open house. And if they like it, let them know. And then they could sit in their fuzzy bunny slippers at home and write a 10-minute contract and make 3% commission. And they don't even go. So I see a lot of that, and it's unfortunate. And I think, the buyer has to really be given great services like finding distress sales, finding homes that might need some work, homes that might be ready to lower their price. There are different strategies that we can deploy to find our buyers the best deal. And if you are thinking of doing that, give us a call, 719-301-3900, or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
Barb, you've got some really hot new listings for us this week. Tell us about them.
I do. I have really great home in Woodland Park on Highway 24 at $299. A great home owned by the VA. Special financing available in Fountain at $342,500. Great home down in Pueblo with a pool, believe it or not, at $369 on 13th. A couple of really great homes in Rush, one at $374 on 2 acres and one at $465 on 9 acres. Great home in Old Colorado City that can be used as an Airbnb on Tower Road. Fabulous home in Pueblo, a ranch with a finished basement and prestigious walking stick at $565. An amazing home out in Peyton on Capitol Peak Way, priced at $574,999. Gorgeous floor plan with a finished basement. beautiful 2-story with a 3-car garage in Briargate on Coberdale. Another one in Briargate on Zurich at $454,999. Spectacular home in Rockrimmon on Big Valley Drive at $699 with a separate man cave 3-car garage. Beautiful home in Broadmoor Bluffs that backs to open space at $684,999. And a couple of amazing custom homes, one on Wild Roads Drive in Canyon City, priced at $125 million, over 5,000 square feet, great views, beautiful home, lots of custom things to it, as well as one on 16145 Open Sky Way, $2,095,000 on 4 acres, gorgeous views, beautiful home with a main level master, and a beautiful piece of land on Hidden Valley, and more coming soon. One on 1 acre in town, and another Southeast rancher under 300,000. To find out about more properties, give us a call, 719-301-3900, or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You've been listening to Your Real Estate Voice. That's Barb Schlinker. The program airs every Saturday from 11 until noon, right after Kudlow. If you're thinking of making a move, call Barb. The number is 719-301-3900, or as always, visit barbhasthebuyers.com. That'll do it for this weekend, Barb. You be safe. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.